Raising the Roof, presented by the Central Indiana Realtist Association, a local chapter of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. Our mission is to build wealth through home ownership by enhancing economic development. We accomplish this goal by informing, advocating, and educating in the communities we serve. And now, Raising the Roof.
Welcome to Raising the Roof. I'm Priscilla Russell with Team Russell, your team with hustle.
I'm Dolores Kennedy with B&K Real Estate Services.
Okay, now today, Dolores, we're going to be talking about day 2 of Sarah's Realtist Week.
Well, but you know what? There's a lot for you to have, so I hope you got more room on your paper. Bring it, because we've got information that you can use. A lot more information.
Because it seems that, like, we're talking about banks closing and things like that in black neighborhoods and lower areas. Okay, so let's just say the banks, so we know the insurance companies redline, and their rates are based on the size of the population and any specific area, zip code, like you were saying. So if these areas are designated red line districts, areas, that makes that whole neighborhood economically disadvantaged. So then you got the banks closing, you got the stores pulling out, you don't have the bus service, so you've got food deserts, and then so the neighborhood is really dissolving. And then the white folks come in with gentrification and buy up everything and improve everything, but where do the black people go? Good question.
Yeah, so we need to have investment without displacement. And Representative Pryor, again, shout out, has for years introduced one bill that would protect longtime homeowners from being displaced through property tax increases. She mentioned at the start today, this year, she had HB 1326 that would have addressed some of the redlining and appraisal discrimination with a starting bill to try to confront that's happening. That bill did not get a hearing. What we need to have all of you do is to demand that committee chairs in our Indiana General Assembly hear bills like Representative Porter's, so that they get an opportunity to be heard, debated, and decided upon. Right now, she writes these phenomenal bills that never get a hearing, and they deserve to have a hearing. So we need more of you speaking up. This is an election year. There's going to be a lot of town, forums, candidate forums. Ask them what they're doing on rental issues, lending issues, insurance. Ask as part of those candidate forums. They need to know that this is something that matters to their constituents.
Question.
Can I say something?
Oh, yes, sir.
And with that, if you know, you kind of know where we are in Indianapolis and probably, but for other, you got to remember, you got 92 counties, 72 counties or more. So those individuals who control those committee chairs live in other parts of the state. Yeah, that too. But you got, if you know someone that's a committee chair, and you find out who it is, try to figure out their area, and then have people from within their area call. Because the key thing about it is that we can all call from here. They'll look at the first 10 calls. Okay, well, they don't live here. They don't live there. I mean, they're not my constituent, and they won't do anything. But when you have people that call from their community, it kind of raises. Because I want to tell you, being in legislature, if I get 10 phone calls, to me that's like 100. Because I know they got cousins and mamas and everybody else. Because I know, I mean, really, because you gotta understand, they are doorkeepers to their community. And I know if I get 10, 15 phone calls, to me, that's 100 phone calls. So they have to feel that pressure, and they have to understand, the people have to understand, this just not happen in urban areas. It happens in rural areas also.
Yeah, and if I could
You
talk
can.
about. Thank you, Representative Porter. My bill dealing with gentrification, when you look at Indianapolis, it's not just the neighborhoods that has African Americans or minorities. If you go to the south side of Indianapolis, that's not a whole lot of, it's African Americans there, but it's not considered an African American community necessarily. Those areas are getting hit as well. So it's really in places where people have been, in some areas in Indiana, and I will say Indianapolis in particular, it's not just a race issue for gentrification, it's also those longtime homeowners in some of those communities that are just kind of right outside of the downtown area that's getting hard, where people are moving in and running up those price values as well. So, and that is much different than it is in other places around the country, and where it's really just mostly minority neighborhoods. In Indianapolis, it's a mixed bag. It is mostly probably, and I would say it's probably people who have lived there a long time but don't have a whole lot of income. But now those areas and those neighborhoods are really appealing to some of the younger people who are wanting to move in, which is fine, but it's pushing up those values of those people who have been there a long time. And that's really something that's quite different in Indianapolis than it is in a lot of other places.
Thank you. This question, Chris, has your name on it. In recent years, my board has taken an approach to confronting or at least acknowledging there are issues. How do you think this has impacted my board minority membership?
Well, that's a great question. I think that, this last couple of years, I think, has been a time for our industry to really reflect on our past. We certainly own we have a lot of ownership in the issues that we're facing today. Our industry, within our own association, didn't allow black membership for many years. Our members were involved in discrimination and other related issues. And so I think it has been an eye-opening experience over the last couple of years to really look back and have a better understanding of our role. I think that, I've worked in this industry for a long time myself and knew a lot of the history, but I did not appreciate the full impact of everything that our industry played in all of the different issues that we're addressing today. And so I think it's been a really positive thing from my perspective anyway, that we've taken the time to kind of step back and reflect upon our past, acknowledge our role in those issues, and commit to doing better going forward. We know that we've got to do more training, we've got to do continued education. We've certainly opened up a lot of our own members to some of these issues, but there's certainly members that we haven't been able to touch yet. I mean, we've got to continue this. I think it's, if anything, I see some of these conversations make sure that they continue long term. This isn't something that we can't just talk about fair housing maybe for the next couple of years and assume that, we've educated everybody and everything's fixed, right? I think that's kind of the trap we got into before. I think we assumed everybody knew the history of our past, and we didn't. I didn't fully understand all of it, and so I hope that our minority members have seen some of that and have some faith that we're moving in the right direction. and taking ownership of some of those issues. I can't speak for those members, so I don't know for sure. I'm sure there's a tremendous amount of mistrust still that we have to overcome. One of the things that I think that I came away with most of all over the last couple of years is just understanding the trauma of all these issues on the Black community and other members out there. That I didn't really fully appreciate the depth of that, and I think that that's something that takes a long time to get over. And a lot of these issues aren't easy fixes when we're talking about trying to address valuation of Black neighborhoods and gentrification. These are complicated issues, right? And so there's no quick fix to some of these, unfortunately. And so we've got to continue to have these conversations going forward. But I hope more than anything that we've opened up the dialogue and people are at the table now and starting to move in the right direction. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
Dr. Phil says you can't fix what you don't acknowledge.
Hello, I'm Dolores Kennedy, broker owner of B&K Real Estate Services, serving the Indianapolis community for over 25 years. I'd love to help you with your home buying experience, whether it's a new build, whether it's an existing home. I'm here to serve you. Call me. You see the number. Call me.
Okay, to that point, and this is just a comment, and all of us are really pretty much in the same situation, especially those who work with a lot of first home buyers. So I've been in the business over 40 years, and my counterparts were all in this together. Make a long story short, I'm very saddened to see, and this is, nature of the beast, let's say, because of what we're dealing with here with the seller's market. So what used to be FHA, and what I'm saying is that we're really affecting our first home buyers. How? First of all, with listings that used to be FHA or VA are no longer listed, that they would accept FHA or VA. That's number one. Number two, when we write offers and they're FHA or VA, they're not accepted. They're at the bottom of the pile. Why? Because there's federal government. It's a federal type of money that you're getting. So the sellers are tainted, because of the attitudes of the agents. We're independent contractors, right? We can do whatever we wanted to do. But, the attitudes, and it's all because of the fact that, of course, highest and best, so what are the terms? Even on conventional right now, you know what I put? I don't even put what they're putting. I put to be determined. That's because what I do. So anyway, and it's a mere fact, and I'm not the only one. Everybody can raise their hand. We almost celebrate with each other when an FHA offer has been accepted.
Yeah, that's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's the attitudes, it's the heart. A lot of these sellers don't know what's going on. They're taking our advice as realtors, what's going to be best for them, for their accepting an offer. That's it.
Well, what is the home ownership rate for people that don't know right now? Nationally, the Black home ownership rate is 42%. In Indiana, 37%. In Marion County, 34%. What about the white home ownership rate? Nationally, 72%. 72 versus 42. In Indiana, 74% versus 37. In Marion County, 65% versus 34. And what Janice is talking about is the inability of people to be able to use FHA, a product that is meant to right some of these disparities, is only going to make this worse, and is making it worse. So there's certainly some talk at the national level of trying to make FHA a more usable product in this market. But we want people to be able to have a habitable home. I mean, we don't want to loosen certain standards that FHA protects that homeowner with. But something's got to change, because we're going to be seeing the impact of these recent few years for generations to come, because the only people who are able to purchase homes right now are the ones that have access to a lot of cash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Hi, I'm Priscilla Russell, your team with Hustle with United Real Estate. We've been serving Indianapolis area for over 37 years. We help our clients build generational wealth through home ownership. When you need a home or you need to sell a home, please call us at 317-872-SELF.
And so, as a lender, I do need to say there's nothing wrong with the FHA product. It is excellent. What the issue is are the attitudes of the realtors who are fixated on the fact, and they are dealing with fake information long-term, and the average age of realtors and lenders are well into the 50s, so we're bringing a lot of stuff into these transactions. So what the issue is to change the attitude of the realtor and stop weighing in. And many cases, and I'm a lender, don't throw any apples at me, but it's interesting what realtors think an FHA loan is and what it does and what it does not do. And so and then it's also interesting that I believe if you had 10 agents standing up here right now and you asked them, what's a conventional loan, that most of them, they would answer incorrectly, because a conventional loan is only a loan that is not a government loan. And that means you've got a number of conventional products out in the marketplace, and what realtors think they're actually getting is really not what they're getting just because it's called conventional. So there's so much misinformation, and it's on each of us as professionals to reach out and talk to our partners and have them break it down. Janice has this saying, she says, talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old. We need to start talking to each other like we're 3-year-olds. So we totally understand, because you cannot make an argument about something if you really don't know what you're arguing about. But the attitude of the agents is truly one to me where it's like the attitude of originators. And someone asked a question about this. They asked about making a phone call. I used to take phone call applications over the phone, mortgage applications over the phone, and people then would discern from the voice of the applicant what nationality or ethnicity they were, and then the answer the loan officer gave them was based on what they interpreted that to be. And we know that's bad, and that's all wrong, right? And I think the same thing applies when, bottom line is back to our attitude, right? It's our attitudes as well, realtors' attitudes, and we just need to be frank about it and acknowledge it and work on it. And if there's nothing happening from NAR level or from NAREB level addressing this, then that's something that maybe is an opportunity that can be looked at. Yes?
One of the things, I had an offer that I gave, and when I called the agent to find out, the results, because I hadn't heard anything, he said I would have had to spend $30,000 over this price in order for us to get it. And then he said, we got 44 offers in. He said, we took all of the FHAs and we put them to the side. They didn't even look at them. They saw it. And then they took the conventionals and they set them to the side. They worked on cash offers first. Then they went to conventionals. They never looked at that. Would he admit that? No, not. But what he was letting me know. But in the remarks, they said that they would take FHA. What I think they need to start doing, if you're not going to take FHA, don't put it there as possible financing, because it wastes everybody's time. In doing that. But and not only do we need to be educated, so that we can educate our buyers, our sellers, but we need to have it ourselves. We can't tell them what we don't know,
Yes.
So, back to the investors. What is the viable option? I mean, I've heard there's some federal hearings, there some legislation. What is the most viable option, or what do you all think to address that portion of it? Does the investors buying up single-family homes, especially in some neighborhoods?
So I want to just say real quickly what Fairway's doing. This is not a commercial, but I think it's ingenious. So we have this program called, it's basically converting a pre-approved buyer into a cash buyer. And the way it's done, the file is completely underwritten all the way through underwriting, subject to the appraisal. And we can close the loan in 2 weeks, just like the cash buyer. We're basically trying to regardless of whether you're FHA, VA, conventional, we're trying to convert that buyer into someone that can close in 2 weeks, subject to the appraisal. The only way the appraisal becomes an issue is if the buyer and the seller disagree on something. If it's a low appraisal, we'll give the seller $10,000. We'll either buy the house from the seller or give them $10,000 for them to resell the house. They cannot lose on this at all. So what I like about it is it's converting that buyer into a cash buyer. So whether they're conventional, VA, or FHA, I think that is one of the, and I'm hearing rumblings that other lenders are looking at similar type programs. So that at least the buyer can make an offer, and when people get excited about, you can get this done in 2 weeks, that's what the cash buyer is bringing to the table, as is. I mean, we're trying to do all the same things that that cash buyer is offering with that pre-approval. Yes.
What is the name of that program? What's the name of the product?
Give him my 10,000.
You know what? You know what? I'm sorry. I will give you the name of the program. I don't know the name of the program.
Okay.
Okay, but I will certainly get it out.
Hello, I'm Shelley Specchio, CEO of Mybor Realtor Association. We support the mission of the Central Indiana Realtist Association to improve the quality of life for the underserved and enhance the economic development for the community. At Mybor, our leadership in economic and community development efforts directly impact the strength of our communities and promote the importance of homeownership for all. Learn more about how realtors strengthen our communities at mybor.com.
One thing also that I have come across is at a grassroots level is where there are homeowners associations that exist, putting protections in place for those properties that are owner occupied and putting in a covenant that says that property has to be held as an owner-occupied property for a certain number of years before it can be used as a rental. So on a grassroots level, I think that's a great way to address some of these investors.
Can I respond to that question? I just want to go back and not be a horse on the topic I covered earlier, but I think again it's a huge portion of this conversation has to focus on the supply of housing. Investors are certainly adding pressure to the already really tight marketplace, but the reason I think that it's so much of a focus is because they're buying in a particular price range, and that's the price range out of all the new construction that's happening that we're not supplying in that price range that investors are buying in. So it's drawing much more attention to that, but we've got to build much more affordable product in our communities across the board. I mean, we're 7 million, we think the estimates are close to 7 million homes short right now of the demand that's out there across the country. It's tremendous, and we can't build our way fast enough out of the issue, but we've especially got to get more in that affordable category because all of the new construction is getting pushed to the top end, and so the investors are drawing a ton of attention. When you look at the total numbers, Brad Coffing, who is our research assistant, was in here just a little bit ago. Brad's been breaking down some of the numbers here locally. It's a small percentage of the overall marketplace when you really look at investors, but they're really buying in that niche category of a certain price range, and so and we haven't been supplying housing. The new construction that's happening is not backfilling that area, so that's why one of the key reasons why this is drawing so much attention to. So it's not just investors aren't necessarily the problem, and we can come up with solutions like the HOA restrictions, but it also there's kind of a negative side to that too. That if you're a homeowner in one of those neighborhoods and suddenly let's say you got a job relocation and you the market wasn't in its current condition and maybe you couldn't sell your house right away and you needed to rent it. Now maybe you're kind of backed into a corner because of some of those restrictions, and so we've got to be really careful, I think, about how we really consider some of these challenges and how we address them. So.
Yeah, the Fair Housing Center has kind of mixed feelings on those HOA type things. I think if it's a certain type of buyer, or a certain type but I agree with Chris, there's some concerns there. Some cities and states are currently looking at legislation that would basically protect certain neighborhoods from the we buy homes for cash or investor type, those calls, inquiries, that sort of thing. They're kind of designating certain neighborhoods as having additional protections to where certain types of activity can't be done, or that homeowner has some additional protections in fighting that type of activity by some of these, the true investors versus the scammers that are working as well.
I
do have a question concerning what Mr. Pryor said, which is, I'm glad you keep bringing it back. Where are we in terms of planning department or developers to acquire land for, say, a low to mod home ownership tract? Similar to Mapleton,
Riverside.
Red Maple Road. Something similar to that. That's been years ago. But where are we in terms of land acquisition?
I don't know how to answer your question directly, but I know that there are several organizations in town that are working on projects like that. Some of the CDCs, like Near North Corporation, have been working on some proposals to do some affordable projects like that. But we definitely need to do more of it, and I think that we need to look at incentivizing opportunities for that as well. So yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag across the region of where those are happening. There's definitely not enough of it.
Excuse me. One thing that happens with the supermajority, they talk about what is the statistics, okay? And what we have to do as you have to do as realtors and legislators, we have to say these are the numbers because that's what they go when they really want to do something against somebody, they'll bring up these bogus statistics. We have to really, I mean they do, and we have to come back, we have to refute that, period. So the more information you have, that you can gather that information and then share it and come up with your formulas yourself, the better off we are because sometimes we can't beat back some of the things like the tax on services, which he's retiring, so hopefully that won't come back, but it may come back.
Somebody else pick it up.
Shut your mouth, girl.
So we need to wrap it up. I want to thank you for participating, and Madam President Sarah, thank you so much for putting this on. Do you have?
See you next week as we're raising the roof.